When it comes to documenting game systems, I like to stick to the Japanese platforms just because the actual releases in Japan don't get that much attention in the English-speaking world. As a consequence of that, I wind up talking about a lot of RPGs and adventure games that are gonna be inaccessible to much of my audience. Well, J.B.Harold Murder Club gives me a rare opportunity, because it is one of the very few Japanese adventure games of the era to get a US release. So let's look at that for the rest of this video instead of the Japanese text. There we go. And even though I just flipped over to the US version, I have to start this out by talking about Japanese adventure games. One of the first really big monster hits for a Japanese designed and developed adventure game was Portopia Renzoku Satsujin Jiken, or the Portopia Serial Murder Case. The computer version was a graphical text adventure, and it sold pretty well, but changing it to be menu-driven and releasing the game on the Famicom made the game a phenomenon. Following Portopia, murder mysteries became a dominant genre of adventure games in Japan. Mysteries took over adventure gaming in Japan, despite never getting much traction as adventure games outside of Japan. One of the earliest games to copy the Portopia model was Murder Club, a computer game that leaned heavily into a neo-noir aesthetic. It's set in the modern day, but it has a jazz soundtrack, and the story is very noir. Several years later, Murder Club was ported to the Famicom, and then almost 2 years after that, the enhanced version for the PC Engine was released. The developer of the PC Engine port is the original developer of Murder Club, River Hillsoft. They were dipping their toes into console game development at this point, and in a couple of years would go from being a computer game-focused company to a console-focused one. Murder Club was the beginning of an entire franchise of mystery adventure games, and starting in the early 90s, they received big multimedia upgrades. J.B.Harold Murder Club for the PC Engine was the first of those. Whether or not I discuss the sequels in this project becomes a bit complicated, because 2 of the 5 sequels were released as laser-active LD-ROM games, and one of those even had a US release. But at the time of this recording, it's a little bit fuzzy on whether or not I'll be able to include LD-ROM titles in this chronology. So we might see Detective J.B.Harold turn up again, or we might not. Murder Club is the police detective's first case. J.B.Harold is a police detective in the town of Liberty, a smaller city than you might expect, but it has plenty of amenities. Bill Robbins, the CEO of Robbins Company, has been murdered, and no one has any leads. He was found dead in his car in the parking lot of the college. His young wife, who he had been married to for only 6 months, is distraught and is staying with her parents. But a lot of their family don't seem really broken up about Bill's murder. Bill's in-laws hated him. His father doesn't care and just wants to keep the business going. His brother is satisfied to take over his position as CEO. There's rumors of shady business dealings, a mysterious man who might have been after him, and a chain of affairs. You're going to need a corkboard and a lot of red string to figure this one out. The game is fully voice acted, though it defaults to those voices being off. To turn them on, you'll have to choose to take a break in the police station, and that's where the options menu is. I'd call the English voice acting surprisingly competent.
They're made of silver and look expensive. The initials SM are written on them. There are no bloodstains or fingerprints.
Though there's definitely a few cases of whoever we have around the office.
If it's about the deceased CEO, you should ask the president. He's in the back room. Please step this way.
I get the impression that they were pulled from the local theater scene. In a first for video games that occurs way earlier than you might expect, the CD in the US version also includes the Japanese voice cast. You can even change the text of the game to Japanese. That Japanese voice cast isn't much better than the English one. I'm not really sure you're gaining anything by switching over to them, but it's there for you. The way that the investigation works is that you go between locations and interview people at each scene. When you choose to leave someplace, you have a map of the city, and you can scroll around it by pressing and holding button 2. Select a glowing red spot, and you'll see where it is and can select to go there. You can look at the exterior, which are mostly scanned photographs, and then talk to the people inside. The conversation is fairly regimented. You have a greeting, then you can ask for some vital statistics, including their name, age, blood type, their family, hobbies, skills, and where they're originally from. Then you can ask them what they think of every single other person in the game, and then you can ask them for their alibi, what they think of a few possible topics, including marriage, and if they have anything else they want to add. If you want to search an area for evidence, you first have to get a search warrant by going back to the police station and then talking to the prosecutor. If you find something while searching, you take that back to the police station and hand it over to the guy in the lab, who will give you some more information about that item. And that's the way the game goes. You'll tease out little pieces of information, and then have to go back and forth among everyone, asking them for a little bit more, and eventually you'll uncover the culprit. There's a lot of characters here, and you really will need to keep careful notes if you want to try to figure things out. If you need to stop, you can go back to the police station, choose to take a rest, and that's where you'll find the save option. In Japan, Murder Club is a beloved classic, and the PC Engine port in particular is really well regarded. And my own feeling is that this is a great entry point for mystery adventure games. It's very accessible. There's a logical progression to the mystery that you can follow with your investigation, checking out details, eliminating suspects, and running down every lead. And there's an official English version. J.B. Harold Murder Club is well worth checking out just for the experience of it.